So tell me more about the pitching to VCs, how it went.
Pitching to VCs it was easy at first and it got more difficult. And it was quite an interesting situation where we pitched to VCs very early on, when our pitch deck was very immature compared to what we ended up with. We met with some VCs when we still had a Envision interactive prototype. Some of them, obviously, we had a fully fledged product when we went to speak to them. And we found at first it was very easy to speak to the VCs, go to the office hours and get some nice feedback and what they would like us to focus on. And we found it very useful sort of quantifying our valuation and sort of drip feeding different ideas we had about what we thought investors were looking for and getting their honest responses and just leaving with quite a good get back to us when you've achieved this, this and this, and keep the conversation warm and sign us up to the newsletters. So that was an excellent process. But as we got more and more into the fundraising and it got to a point of, okay, we actually now need to chase a term sheet, this is where things really changed. The conversations were extremely different. The difference between going in with VC, where I think they already knew that they wouldn't be investing at this stage, and it was a much more sort of friendly, informal, well, I like this, I like that, I've got questions here, and it was a little bit of validation on both sides, where they're keeping tabs, they want to sort of end with a nice relationship of, okay, if you can achieve some stuff and sort of prove yourself in these areas, you're going to be very interesting when you come back to us, so keep in touch. Whereas when we was going for term sheets, it was a much more intensive, every VC is slightly different, everyone's looking for different points, and you end up in a situation where if you're trying to please too many VCs at once, you're actually getting pulled in different directions where they want different types of KPIs, they want different terms, arguing over the valuation, sort of the share and what it means for each of them, depending on how they're structured themselves. So we found some VCs were really welcoming, wanted to get us on board, wanted to invest, but because of the way their fund was structured, they had limitations. So they couldn't invest above a certain valuation, they could only invest a certain percentage, which just wasn't a good fit. And I guess the more VCs we spoke to, the more we realized how important it is, both us as individuals in terms of the personalities, because that's really what they were investing in, but actually vice versa. That what kind of people are they? Is that the kind of person that I want having a controlling stake within the company and being able to call shots and veto our ideas at such an early stage?
That's a very good point.
It was very difficult, and it was almost an exercise, because trying to get the actual term sheets, it was very difficult. We had pretty much set our heart at this point of going down the crowdfunding route, so we were pursuing that with intensity, but still keeping the conversations with the VCs going. And then we got a term sheet, and this actually caused us a big dilemma, because it was no longer an exercise. We had money. It was there on a piece of paper, and all you have to do is sign, and that's it, you're done. You've raised your funds. All of this work you've been building up to. So knowing that we've got another 2 months until we see the cash, if we carry on the route we're going, we'll just sign this piece of paper and it's done. And it was a very serious and difficult discussion where it was no longer a theory. It was no longer a, well, this is our principles, this is what we're going to do. Suddenly it's a case of, do you want this money or not? And that's where it really tests what your ideals are and what you want to achieve. In the end, we turned down the VC. We turned down the term sheet. We did have a lot of back and forwards to see if we could make it work. But ultimately, in such an early stage of our company, this is our pre-seed round. We hadn't received any external money up until this point, and it just wasn't quite clicking in terms of the vision. And so our concern is, yes, we could take this money now, but in the future, are they going to be following our dreams, our ambitions, and sort of what we believe the company should be achieving? Or are they going to be de-risking us and keeping us sort of on a different path that might not be the best one for us at this stage, but it's the most reliable, safe option? Maybe it's a slower path than we would want. And that was the feeling we couldn't shake. we also then came to sort of the stark realization that getting investment is all well and good because your shareholders have a percentage vote. And as long as us, the three co-founders, we all agree we're voting the same direction, we have the same vision for the company, and any disagreements we can resolve internally. And then as you sort of sell your business, there are more voices to consider, but you still have the majority vote, you can still control all of the actions in the end of the day. Whereas when you give away a board seat, it's headcount. And suddenly the conversation shifted to, well, we're not just selling the business, we're actually giving someone a very serious voting control over what's happening day to day within the business at the board level. And that's where we realized that at this stage, there's a lot of big decisions to be made, and we want to agree on those decisions. Whereas having a third party, that could cause discontent without them meaning to. Obviously, they don't want the business to fail, but it creates that opportunity where there can be another voice in the room swaying people rather than us trying to collectively find a resolution. So it was a very difficult decision, very difficult decision. We still keep in contact with the VC, and we'll definitely talk to them in the next round again.
Are you raising the Series A or seed?
We'll probably raise seed next year. So our plan for this year is to generate our first ever revenue. So that's what we're really building and driving towards right now, so that we can then go back to the VCs we spoke to a few months ago who were saying, love the idea, looks fantastic, plan's excellent, I only invest in post revenue. That's when we can reapproach those guys and say, right, we've ticked all the boxes, we've done all the KPIs we said we were going to do, now let's have a serious conversation. Or potentially we end up going back to the crowd or our existing investors. So we have options on the table, and it'll probably be January is when we sit down, assess all those options, and then come up with the next plan of action.